I want to read a long post by from a former XFL employee, a guy named Andrew Sampson. He was the director of content for the Tampa Bay Vipers. Here's what Andrew Sampson said on Twitter. He said, "On Friday, I got laid off by the XFL, but that's not what bothered me most. Sure, I was gutted by the news and saddened for all of us who worked tirelessly to build the league from scratch. But layoffs are, unfortunately, understandable in the current state of the world, in the midst of COVID-19 and the pandemic going around the world, especially in the sports world. What really got my blood boiling was the albeit too predictable reaction on this platform right here. The haters and Twitter eggs were dancing on the league's still warm body. Even though the XFL has been shut down based on circumstances beyond the league's control. They claimed this proved what they've been saying all along. Nobody needs another sports league, let alone another football league. On some level, I get where they're coming from. When I channel surf past the insert brand name sponsor here bowl or the National Cornhole Championship, I also start to think we have more sports than we can possibly need. But football is the most popular sport in America by far, and sports are a business like any other. We know that when similar products exist in the same space, the companies will develop and redevelop their versions to make sure theirs is superior. In that battle, the winner is always the consumer. The consumer is given options, choices, and power. So why are these people rooting against the XFL? I think I know the answer, and it makes sense. The NFL is more than a sports league. It's an American institution. Symbols like the Green Bay Packers G and the Dallas Cowboys star are so deeply rooted in our culture that it's like Betsy Ross sewed them herself. We feel beholden to them, but we should feel more beholden to another American institution, the free market system. Nobody owns the concept of football. When we chuck a pigskin through the backyard tire swing, we don't have to send a royalty check to the family of Walter Camp, aka the guy who invented football. Football is a product we can all own. Essentially, it's an open source program for sports nerds. Look, I know I'm biased given that the XFL paid me a salary for 6 months, but I think the league provided an innovative and exciting spin on the game. I could give you a laundry list of examples to back that up, but I want to focus on the XFL's most important achievements: providing entertainment for millions of fans and jobs for hundreds and hundreds of people who love football. Not only people like myself, but also coaches and players who have devoted their entire lives to the game. I've read a bunch of comments and subtweets from the haters, a bunch of NFL rejects. These guys couldn't make my high school's JV squad. Who's playing quarterback? Uncle Rico? I know they could not have possibly watched the games because if they did, they'd immediately realize how wrong they were. The human wrecking ball who can run a 4-4 and blast his way through a defensive line, he was in the XFL. The gunslinger who can hit a receiver dead in his palm from 50 yards away, he was there too. The 300-pound lineman who can somehow wheel his body several feet in the air to bat down a pass, yep. The league was full of supremely gifted athletes, and they were all there for the same reason. They didn't want to give up on their dreams, and all they needed was an opportunity. The XFL gave them an opportunity. How can you root against that? Andrew Sampson, I loved what you said. He's totally right, by the way. And the XFL innovated a lot of stuff about the game of football that I think the NFL could learn from and take from their league. But I love everything he said. What I don't get, if you didn't love the XFL, you didn't want the XFL, no problem. But why would you root for the XFL to fail? Why would you root against it? It's football. I love football. It's my favorite sport. And I never understood how having more football games hurt anybody. I just don't get it. And it's really crazy to me. I don't like the NCAA. The NCAA exists. And the way they treat their student athletes, their quote student athletes, is totally ridiculous to me. Yet people love college football and they totally hate on and crap on the XFL. I don't get it. It's silly to me. If you don't like something, don't watch it. No problem. But why do you need to hate on it and root against it and say all this horrible stuff? I never understood why people root against things like the XFL. How is the XFL hurting them or affecting their life negatively at all? For me, having more football, I'm a football nerd. Having more football is great. It makes me happy. It gives me more entertainment. And I never understood why people hated the XFL so much. I loved it. I'm really sad it's gone. Andrew Sampson, everything he said in this was so well put, so well written. I know that was a long thing to read, but I just loved it. I loved his message. I loved everything he said. And I will be very, very sad that the XFL is not going to return next year. I really enjoyed it. It was a great 5 weeks. I loved going to games. I knew people on the inside with them, and I really am sad. People I know lost their jobs. It's terrible. And I don't know, man. I wish it'd been given another 2 years, because I think if the XFL had made it to next year and then into year 3, the audience would have grown and kept growing and growing. And it's really, really sad that we didn't get a chance to see that. In case you don't know, Strong Opinion Sports is not just a YouTube channel. It is also a full audio podcast. You can find it on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Play, pretty much everywhere you find podcasts. And if you like podcasts, please do me a huge favor and give it a listen.